Hi, I'm Dr. Dan Ratner. As part of our Mind-Body Connection series, we'll continue to look more deeply at the 3 columns and their corresponding action steps. Today, we will look at when to recognize sadness as an emotion of the power column and how this can unlock some profound acceptance of trauma. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below, and I'll get back to you personally. And finally, you can reserve your place in one of my seminars or purchase any of my PDFs at www.crushingdoubt.org. Just recently, I had 2 relatively small sadnesses, but I was reflecting on what they mean and how important they are, particularly in what sadness means in the power column. I was just finishing up a vacation with my best friend from high school, and I just didn't want that time to end. It was me, him, our families, we're all close. We do this once a year. Sometimes we get together other times, but always that time of year. The first mistake we all make when dealing with sadness is wanting it to go away, or thinking that it never will go away. This is understandable in the way most people experience sadness because that way is unbearable and feels like it will never go away. But what this really is a form of fear, and it is pushing away the communication that is inside the sadness. As with anything on Crushing Doubt, there is another way to look at these things, and that alternate viewpoint is how we receive the message coming from our soul. The message in this sadness wasn't actually sad. It was good. Because there are different types of sadness, and this one came out of my power column. I knew without any doubt that my friend, his wife, and their daughters were truly like family to me. I had always felt that way, but this time it was even more. Maybe it was the pandemic and the tremendous losses and isolation of it, but here's what it was most of all: clarity. Within that sadness came the clarity that these are some of my very most important people, and that so many others are not. Which is fine and even relieving to know, actually. This led to more clarity that I will get to shortly about my traumas and the importance of the power column in getting me fully past them. But this sadness revealed that I have arrived somewhere, at where I want to go in my safety in the world, and the people who I know provide that for me. True and uncomplicated sadness reveals an arrival somewhere. Out of the depths of confusion or postponed mourning and loss, being sad is the ability to be temporarily in the loss without being swallowed up by it. And this is what that moment was. The other sad moment that bears repeating was really the same thing, but it came at a happy time, so sadness kind of snuck in through the back door. It was a 4th of July gathering at our house, and I had some music on. I love music, as it is the thing that helps me channel emotion better than anything else. In fact, I need to do a podcast on music and how it can help many people access things they need to get to peace with themselves. So what was this moment? The song Mrs. Robinson came on, and it came to my favorite line in the song. It's a great song, but I particularly love these set of lines. And something new happened this time, despite my having thought I understood why the line was so powerful to me. And the line is, "Where have you gone, Joe DiMaggio? Our nation turns its lonely eyes to you." And then there's the follow-up. "What's that you say, Mrs. Robinson? Joltin' Joe has left and gone away." Now, I always knew that the power of that line came in the missing of what was gone generally, or a sense of an era passed by. I knew it was about loss, but it felt to me about a collective loss. And then it hit me that these lines had always been most powerful to me for personal reasons. Who was this Joe DiMaggio to me? He was from an era I never even saw, but can still somehow feel a version of. Baseball has always held a special place in my heart, because as James Earl Jones said in Field of Dreams, it is baseball that has marked the times. Well, that, movies, and music, anyways. Knowing me as you do, you may all know where I'm going with this, but I truly did not. The question, "Where have you gone?" made it clear to me what was specific in the power of the lines. Where had my father gone? From all I had heard, my family turned its lonely eyes to him, but he truly had left and gone away. And in a way, I hadn't fully felt it until that moment. I teared up right in the middle of happiness, and no one was even there to see it, but I didn't need anyone to. I had achieved another sort of personal enlightenment by understanding this. While I've been angry at him for being gone, and especially for not writing to me when he knew he was dying, and I've always been sad about it generally, I'm not sure I've ever been properly sad about it. This time I was. His death was a real loss to me, and I felt it. But as sad as it was, it felt to me like I had arrived somewhere finally, like I had incorporated into my being. Now, it's important to emphasize that, once again, it was the specific understanding that led to the breakthrough, not the general. We need to start generally, and then we get to the specifics. But it also happened because I already understood my core narrative and who I am. From there, even more understanding, insight, and relief can occur. This is what being able to be sad is all about, and it is a very profoundly power column type of experience. It comes more often, in fact, when we have gotten in touch with who we really are at our core. It comes more easily as well when we are living our power as well. Because sadness and the arrival of that moment means an acceptance of the details of what hurts in us. I always say that in the column work, we need to start general, broad, and high stakes to get our bearings, but it is in the specifics that we get the relief from the symptoms. Well, I would say that my lack of sadness in my life has been a symptom, which is never something to be judged by me or anyone else. It is to be understood. And the symptom got resolved, at least partially, when I heard those lyrics again, but this time through the lens of my own accepted trauma. I had already accepted the trauma. Now I was doing work with that acceptance. Not only have I judged myself for it, but so have others. They say about my not crying, for example, even jokingly, "What is wrong with you?" But here's the thing. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with me. There's only what is. In sadness, we can learn to not run even one little iota from who we are. Sadness is, in fact, about being exactly who you are. So is happiness. All true feelings are about being truly you. The goal of the columns is to know the emotions column, to shrink the doubt column to nothing, and as I say to people regularly, to live in the power column. As hard as sadness can be, I want to distinguish between the power column version of sadness and grief. Grief is different. This is a deep sadness where something has just happened. This can be defined well over a year, and even more in extreme cases like what we saw with Judy Collins. Grief is when something is broken and it can never be fixed. This is when mourning needs to occur, a letting go of something, a wish that it was good, and knowing that it never can be in that way again. Sadness, on the other hand, comes after accepting trauma. Before you accept the fullness of your trauma, there's buried grief. The mourning has not taken place. Once you understand the fullness of what has happened to you, not long after, you're done with the grief. And this is why sadness is an arrival. When you can be sad without wanting to get away from it and can understand the message of it, just like you can any other feeling, you have reached the end of a journey in which the sadness was held at bay or felt too overwhelming to even feel. Calm, accepting sadness not only doesn't last long, but it is often just a sign of some very good things. With my friend and his family, it was about having real and deep connections. With the song lyrics, it was about my knowing that I'm fine even without my father, on top of the wonderful fact of having another father in another part of my life. Both of these moments were about knowing I was fine overall. Once you accept your trauma, you can mourn your losses, and then it will feel like you've started the second half of your life because you did. If this doesn't make sense to you yet, it just means you haven't done it yet. But it is very important to know that it can be done. I didn't even know it was possible. No one in over 20 years of therapy or in well over 40 years of life seemed to have known this, or certainly not to have conveyed it to me. But I understand it, and you can too. And I've experienced it, and you can too. See sadness as a communication of arrival. Once you're sad without it overwhelming or feeling anything but another feeling to almost savor, your trauma is over. I do hope you enjoyed this podcast on sadness and its importance in the power column. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, or put your comments below, and I'll get back to you personally.